Yeah. Uh-huh.
Finance is the oldest industry in the world, and we're disrupting its future. Welcome to Fearless Impact. I'm Molony Cook, COO and co-founder of Dealflow Exchange, a private capital ecosystem redefining how money moves and who gets to raise it. Let me take you on a journey of building the next unicorn while breaking into the boys' club of deal making. This is season 3, and I'm currently in Gold Coast, Australia. It's been an incredible year. I'm just reflecting back because it's December and I have never felt so calm in my whole entire life. I always knew I was going to be an entrepreneur. There was never a doubt in my mind that I wasn't going to be owning my own business. I never knew what that looked like for me. And I never thought it would be finance if I think back to like my younger self. Let me take you all the way back to when I shaved my head at around 15 years old. I had bleached it blonde. I was making chokers. I had my first little side hustle at 15 or 16. I was working in fashion and I had just dropped out of high school in order to do my diploma of fashion. So I then learned how to make swimmers, bikinis, and I had these like triangle neoprene bikinis that I was making. My business was called Sheer Immortal. You can imagine what younger Ella was like. She was rebellious. She had an attitude problem. I definitely was raised very uniquely. My parents are not traditional. My dad is a very serious entrepreneur and my mom is very much a free spirit. And I'm so grateful for that upbringing, but I definitely think that it definitely shaped who I am today because I left home really early and I became an adult really early in life. And the thought of working for someone else literally terrifies me more than being an entrepreneur. Like I have such a high risk tolerance and I get that from my dad. It was unheard of at my age. I think I was 16, just about turning 17. I got offered a really powerful role inside of a clothing company. And this clothing company is called CUE. It's based in Australia. It's Australian made European fabrics. It's very much for the working woman. It's very high fashion in Australia. They are partnered with Dion Lee. They had another brand at the time. And so we would go into the stores and we would do all the visual direction. So I was underneath kind of the state visual manager. And so she really took me underneath her wing. And so I got to travel around to all of the stores in Queensland, pretty much present them in a way that was on campaign. It was really being able to understand the marketing component on how to bring customers in. And I loved being in that world. That was such a fun world. It was so fast paced. And that's really where I found how I knew I had leadership skills because I had to go, and I was so young, and a lot of these women that ran these stores were a lot older. And so I had to build rapport with them. That's really how I learned how to work with people that maybe thought I shouldn't be where I am. And they all loved me, but at the same time, there was this level of like intimidation that I felt that they were trying to put over me. So it really made me have thick skin early on in life. And so I spent 55 hours a week working my butt off for this company. And I loved every minute of it, but I got to a point where I wanted to go away to Europe. I had just turned 18. I'd been with this company, I think, since I was like 15, 16. So at that point, they kind of was like, look, you can't go. We need you here. It's a campaign launch. I then decided to wait. I didn't go. I bought my first property at 19 years old in Brisbane, which is crazy looking back. I just knew that I wanted to get into the world of investing. And my grandfather has a lot of property in Australia. So for me, I knew I had him as kind of a mentor. So he ended up matching my deposit, which helped me a lot. And obviously I knew I could rent it out. Like I was going to stay there for the year for capital gains and then I was going to rent it out. So at this point, I was still working with Q. I ended up going to Europe, and then I met my partner at the time, and we decided that we loved to travel and work out. And so we then went on a journey of building my first company, Activate You. We didn't end up working out, shocker, I was so young, but it was so challenging running a retreat business. Retreats are one of the hardest business models because you don't have cash flow, and it's seasonal, and it's a luxury. People don't need it. But I was lucky enough that after leaving Q, I then had a really great community in Brisbane and the Gold Coast of influencers. I really understood how to market. I understood how to build a community. So we then came out with kind of like a fitness bundle that was like travel anywhere, workout anytime. And that really took off in COVID because obviously no one could access the gyms. So it was kind of like this thing for me, even though the retreats kind of failed because obviously there was no travel and I had to pay out all of the refunds back to anyone who had booked a deposit for we had a Nusa, Bali, and then we had done Thailand in the past as well. So that was super sad. I think I was so emotional because you work so hard for something and then it gets taken away in a second. Then with like the whole product side taking off, we also was partnered with a supplement brand because I realized very early on, I was like, okay, if I actually want to make Activate You sustainable, I need to have a product that people need to come back and buy again. So supplements is obviously something that I didn't want to go down the part of making it. So that was very interesting and unique. At the time, I don't feel like I had the capacity to keep going. So I decided to like Google, how do I sell my business? I was working with a business broker who wasn't tapped into the fitness market. And so I feel like I just got a lot of people that didn't have much experience with running a online brand. And for me, it was my baby. It was my first business. I didn't want to sell it to someone who didn't understand how to grow it. And so we ended up getting acquired, and that was perfect for me. I didn't end up using the business broker, and I paid them a lot of money and they didn't do anything, but I knew who would buy my company, so I approached them and it was perfect. Like, I don't look back and regret any of those decisions that I made. I will say that if I had the knowledge that I know now, I would never have gone into that business. It was just a lot of stress and it wasn't worth the money. Like, the retreats are just not worth the pain, like, unless you're just doing it for fun. But I was doing it because I wanted the business and I wanted to build the community. I wanted both. And I think that I didn't realize that e-commerce and products are a lot easier. And I'm grateful that the whole experience turned out how it happened. But after that, I then sold my property myself. I got into real estate for a short second in the Gold Coast. I became a buyer's agent. So I was working with a lot of developers doing feasibility studies, seeing what would stack up. And it was in COVID. So the property market was about to pop and I could see that. So I wanted to sell my property, and because I had just gone through the process of getting my real estate license, it did not make sense for me to use an agent at the time, but that was perfect. I got to experience what I knew I always wanted to try being in real estate because of my family having so much to do with real estate when I was younger, but I want to be able to travel everywhere in the world. So realizing that if you're going to build your book of business in real estate, you can't move, you can't travel, you have to be very stable. So I then sold everything I owned and decided to take a 6-month sabbatical and travel. I don't think that was the smartest thing for me to do at the time. I think I probably should have just moved to the US, but me being young, I then wanted to just do my own thing for a minute. And so that's when I had my podcast, Invest Like a Girl. And I was very much speaking about how to diverse your portfolio. I was in crypto, gold. I had a small sliver of stocks and I loved that world. Crypto was like such a empowering time for me because I was learning so much about money and also my risk tolerance, and it opened up a community that was really kind of alternative, which I love. Like I love people that are going against the grain. And then traveling, I then got to meet some of those people. So I ended up going to Bali, Turkey, Europe, the UK, and then America. And then when I got to the States, I was still trying to figure out, do I want to move there? Is that possible for me? Because I don't have a degree. Sometimes it is really hard moving to a different country because you obviously have to show that you're a valuable person in order to enter that country. And so the US, I then found a really great immigration lawyer. They said you just have to get sponsored. I had a friend who had a fintech company, and so he then sponsored me. I came in kind of around a pretty early stage for their company. I was meant to be in a marketing role. It just didn't end up working out. I think that I need to be like all in for energetically for me to be in a business with someone and be able to take equity. And it just didn't feel like it was the right timing for them. They were still working a lot of things out with their product at the time, but really great experience. And then I started Growth House. And so Growth House was very much what I learned from that fintech marketing. I saw the power of LinkedIn and automation and outreach and how it's so powerful to know how to move what levers in order to scale a company. And then that brought me into I really thought, I was like, I don't want to go through the journey of going through a startup. I was like, that's just, it feels so much work and it's really taxing on your body. Going through that so early on in life, I knew the sacrifices that has to be made in order to get a company off the ground. And so when I heard Cody Sanchez and her talking through, okay, why are you not just buying a pre-existing cash flowing company? I was like, wait, that makes so much sense to me. I want to go through an M&A transaction and I would love to be able to do a roll-up. So then I joined her community. I then started to meet so many incredible people. And one of those people was my ex-business partner. And so we had connected and we got along really well on the call. But I think there was just this part that we're very different people and I think we wanted different things. But that journey of us wanting to do a recession-proof acquisition in Arizona, and that was perfect. Like I learned so much working with her. I learned so much about myself. I learned so much about what I do and don't want in a partnership. And it was kind of, the irony was so funny that Deal Diary closed and then the door was Deal Flow Exchange open. So I had gone to a conference. It was called Fund Launch. And Fund Launch, I was on a mission. I wanted to just network. It was kind of like my first ever big conference now looking back. And it's crazy the amount of confidence that I have in the sense that I can walk into a room and I can go up and speak to people, even if the whole private capital world was very new to me. I'd been in this Cody Sanchez's community learning about M&A. And then I had found a mentor in Arizona for private equity. And so he was working with an investment bank and I knew that I could get deal flow. I'm like the queen of networking. So when I was at this Fund Launch networking event, I was getting deal flow for an investment bank. But then post the actual conference, I realized how unethical this investment bank's business model is with upfront six-figure fees, not being able to close on debt on the back end. And, you know, I was naive. I didn't really understand exactly what was going on at the time. I then got to meet the CEO of the investment bank in Miami. And it did sound like too good to be true. And I did waste a lot of time. And then I obviously did figure it out that I was like, okay, these guys are not trying to help people. They're just trying to rip people off. And that was a really great experience of the whole capital raising industry, because I was like, okay, there's a lot of smoke and mirrors. I don't come from a financial background. I don't fully understand what is happening here, but I knew it was just energetically not aligned. And then when Jesse and I connected through Slack, we didn't even meet each other at the conference. We then hopped on a call. I brought in my mentor. He gave us the demo of DFX, and I was like, hold on, this is so incredible, because you had to realize I had then spent the last year looking at boring businesses, M&A transactions. So for me, seeing a platform that was so innovative in such an old school space, I was like, my eyes lit up, because his business model was all around providing as much value as possible, and the entry level was so low. And so I asked my mentor, I was like, what do you think of Deal Flow Exchange? Like, I'm just really curious. And he was like, it's really cool. He's like, I want to invest in DFX. And I was like, okay. I was like, I think I want to pitch myself. Like, do you think that's weird? Like, what do you think? And he was like, no, go for it, Ella, 100%. And I then got my big girl pants on. I was like, all right, let's do this. You got to just show who you are, prove it, but don't just talk it, prove it. That was my biggest thing. And so I went to him and I was like, listen, give me a chance. I know that I can help you grow and scale this company. And for some wild reason, Jesse gave me an opportunity. And that's the whole basis of this episode, is shoot your shot. Even if it feels uncomfortable, even if you get rejected. Like, I am so grateful that I have the confidence to ask for what I want. And that's what it comes down to, is if you don't ask, you will never receive. And it like literally gets so good, because the door with my ex-business partner closes, and that was really traumatic for me, because I had moved to this whole new state. I was already halfway across the world without my family, so I felt quite kind of alone. And then when I met Jesse, I never thought that would end up being best friends. Like, Jesse looks like just such a straighty kind of 180 guy. And so, I'm a little bit out there, I would say. And then getting to know him, we are two peas in a pod when it comes to business, but also we're so supportive of each other authentically. Like, we don't try and change each other. We are kind of like brother and sister in a way. And it's an incredible feeling to know that someone has your back, and that you get to go on this journey with someone that truly cares about you and wants to see you win. And I like even get emotional thinking about it, because I'm like so grateful for him, and just the opportunity that he has given me is like literally changed my life. And I shouldn't be crying, but I just like being back in Australia, it really has made me realize that I'm such a different person. And I'm so proud of all of the hard work, but it is really hard building a company, and there is a lot of sacrifices that you have to make to yourself, to your friends and family. And so being back here, I haven't really connected much with my old friends, just because I am in such a different chapter of my life. And going back to DFX, I want to be the best leader for my team. We now have such a large team so quickly, and that's all because of me and my ability to know that this is something that is very powerful. And I knew that we needed support straight away. So shout out to Eve, Melissa, and Kat. They were like our first 3 people that we brought on. And it was so empowering for me for them to be women. And the private capital financial space, as everyone knows, is very male dominated. So in my intro, I speak about breaking into the boys club, and that's really what I want this journey to be about, is making it inclusive for everyone. And that's what I love about DFX, is we're evening out the playing field. We're making capital more affordable, more efficient, but we're also doing it in a really fun and edgy way. And I believe that we have the power to change the world with the way capital moves. If you have an opportunity that needs to be funded and it should come back for the economics of your deal, not where you live, what alumni network you came from. And that's what it really is about, especially in the States. I've noticed if you go to a great school, you have this great network that you then get nurtured from and you have opportunities. A lot of us don't have that. And we're creating an ecosystem that is very powerful, that anyone can access. And yes, that does come with a lot of risk in the sense that we have to make sure that we're on top of getting feedback from the community, adjusting when we need to. But it's a really exciting journey. And I'm really excited just to take you on this journey with us. And I'm so grateful that you're listening, because just know that anything that you want in life, you can achieve. I am living proof of that. I did not come from this world. I did not even think that this was possible for me. And I'm so grateful to be here. So I will see you in the next episode.
Yeah. Uh-huh.